All right, everyone, we're back. The Hornets traded back into the first round with the 19th overall pick here with the New York Knicks. The all signs are pointing to Kai Jones, who actually worked out for the Hornets twice. So that probably was a good indicator that the Hornets were interested in Kai Jones, that they brought him back. This guy is kind of like Brian has said before, more of a 4.5 than maybe a true 5. He plays more like a wing, both offensively and defensively. But the thing with this trade, we don't know the exact details, but the Hornets are giving up a future first round pick here. And we were discussing, depending on the protections on this pick, we would hope that it would be lottery protected, at least for the first year that they trade here. So Kai Jones is being picked by the Knicks, but this is going to be a proposed trade to the Hornets. I'm going to pass to you, Lee. Kai Jones, fan of this guy or not?
Huge fan of Kai Jones. He was a lottery pick on my board. The thing with Kai Jones that I've been kind of a proponent of is like he's been framed as this massive high risk, high reward pick, which I think is definitely true to the upside. Like he's an asymmetric bet, but him reaching his full potential is going to be like an arduous task for him because he's got a long way to go. But like the off the dribble stuff that he flashes, the shooting that he flashes is super unique and uncommon for a player his size that moves the way he does. My whole point with Kai Jones and the reason why I like him is like I don't think I think he's got a pretty decent floor too, because even if like all the extra bells and whistles of the offensive stuff never comes around, he's still like a pretty good, high-level athlete, rim run. Rim protection needs to come around a little bit. He's got the tools to do it. He's got to actually execute it. But like vertical lob threat for sure with LaMelo in the pick and roll in transition. I just think like as at the very least as like an energy big, he's going to be pretty useful. Then the gravy on top is if all the other stuff happens as well. Then you're starting to look like a potential, easily a starter level type player in the NBA. So that's kind of my Kai Jones rant. My head is spinning trying to process all this, but I like the pick.
Yeah, it's this is interesting. I did not foresee them going this route, but as Spencer was saying right before we got on here, Charlotte's going for it in this draft. There's no doubting like the talent and sort of like the upside intrigue and flashes that Kai showed this season. If you haven't watched him play, he really does move like a 6'11" wing. Like he is that sort of fluid laterally with the basketball, with his shot creation. Like he can do some pretty like unbelievable jarring stuff for a guy that size and that length. On the positive side, assuming he is able to tap into one of his better shooting outcomes, he can be a really good pick and roll, pick and pop target with LaMelo, which is something that the thing that I am like most intrigued by with Kai Jones is what he does as a screener for you offensively, as a guy that can roll to the rim, can be a run jump guy, can be a pick and pop player. And then when you throw him into space like that, can shoot off the catch. If there's a hard close, he's a little limited in what he can do to attack a closeout. He's not going to make a play for someone else, but he can put the ball on the deck, get to the hole. He's got some sort of like creative finishing packages. Even break out a Euro step in the half court. And he's got some pull up shooting abilities. The shot versatility was pretty good this season with Kai Jones, and I do like what he could do for you as like a guy that could screen and then just move in any direction after that. And so I like how that can pair with LaMelo. I like how that how that can play with PJ Washington, Miles Bridges, who do similar things, right? Like those guys can pick and they can do everything after that. So I think having someone like Kai to that mix is interesting. I mean, who knows how much he'll play next year? He's already turned 20. But this is a bit of a development piece. I don't think he's going to be defensively, like he's just not going to be up to speed to be able to come in and really like play a lot of sustainable minutes winning minutes with him on the court defensively. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but I just think that's going to take some time. The film is like tough with him defensively. He has moments with his athleticism and length that make you think, well, what could this guy be? Some other smaller stuff. I think he's a nice weak side cutter. I think that's a pretty underrated part of his game. We've talked about that on a previous pod before, but I think he and Raekwon Gray sort of fly under the radar as two like big guy cutters. In this draft, there were passing flashes, but the emphasis, like Flash is doing a lot of work in that sentence. I wouldn't say he's exactly like any sort of like creator for others, but a guy that can on a closeout draw help and make a dump off or whatever, a lay down pass. So I'm not crazy about this maneuver, but I do like Kai Jones as a prospect. I like him as someone that could potentially develop and work into Charlotte's system and be a guy that you could see play with in some of these 3-4-5 lineups where everyone's floating around positionally with PJ and with Miles and just LaMelo, pulling all the strings. But this is just not the path I really saw them going at the start of the night to address some of the needs at center by, trading for Mason Plumlee, which of course added them another pick, and then trading back into the first round to get Kai Jones. It's interesting, but I do ultimately like Kai's upside offensively as a prospect.
Yeah, so there's a few moving parts here on like how this kind of came to fruition. I think number one is New York and Charlotte have talked this week about 11 and about 19 and 21, and I think ultimately they couldn't find a deal that involved all those picks. But New York probably left it at, hey, we know who you want. Why don't you just call us later if it's working out that way? And I think that's kind of what happened here. So Charlotte made and that's part number two. Charlotte made the decision that it's time. This is our guy. We believe that at number 19, this is really a top 10 talent. I think that if you've read the tea leaves this week, that Charlotte has believed that all along about Kai Jones. We'll see. To Brian's point, I don't love the value proposition here. We'll see what the first round pick is in the future. If it's a lottery protected, so be it. I hope they take it out to like LaMelo's, final year on his rookie contract, if not farther than that, because that just means you're betting on your team to be good, right? So like that would kind of be what I hope the outcome is here, but we'll have to wait and see. In terms of Kai Jones as a prospect, I really it's hard not to watch him run the floor and not just be intrigued, right? Like at 6'10", 6'11", what he can do, his length. The metrics don't jump off the page at you, but he has these moments, two-way moments, block a pass, go gobble up the loose ball, take it up the floor, hit the open man, relocate, knock down an open three. Yeah, I mean, like the guy is supremely, supremely talented, but he is one of the worst decision makers I saw on film in this draft class. And so it's like, how much can you get out of him, or how much can you sharpen those tools? The one thing I will say, though, playing with LaMelo, and this has been brought up a lot, if they get Kai Jones to buy into a role, in a very specific role, you're a pick and pop. You're a pick, you're a screen and dive guy. We're going to place you in the corner every now and then because you're more of 4.5. You guys brought up his cutting abilities. Like if they get Kai Jones to buy into very 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, D, this is what you do on the basketball floor, and that's how you succeed, and he buys into that, I think he can be a really good NBA player. But you watch Kai Jones on film, and to me, what's coming off to me is that he wants to play the three, right? Like he wants to be a wing. I don't think he's a wing. He's a long ways away from being a skilled wing. So
he fashions himself like Durant, I know
exactly,
part of that is like the Texas jersey he's on running around, but just like, I don't know, for me, I see a guy like Usman Garuba that's still on the board that could have really helped you out defensively. Hell, Keon Johnson's still around at this point in the draft too. So that's another guy, I guess, if you wanted to, you could have thought to have traded back in, and maybe you think you can get some upside with Keon, around 19 or 20 or whatever in the draft. So I don't know. I think Kai is an interesting guy to go back into it for, but I I don't know. You Spencer brought up the transition game. He is awesome in transition. Like when
Really
he runs the court,
Yeah.
just the straight line speed, the finishing.
It's the best. It's the best film he has to me.
Yeah, just open court, and like that's. I mean,
Right.
the Hornets have LaMelo Ball. He's an employee of the team.
Correct.
They're gonna run and they're gonna do like crazy shit in transition and get into chaotic situations and like I'm sure those two guys will have some highlight plays together next season. I could also see, depending on how Charlotte fills out the roster, like I could see Kai also spending some time in Greensboro next year as well.
Yeah, depending on how they approach the bigs in the free market. So.
Jaden Springer also hanging around too. Like there were guys that I think that would have made sense to get back into the first round for, but I'm not sure. Kai's not the guy I would have taken that chance on, even though I do like him as a prospect.
It seems like you guys are kind of down on the fact that, one, they traded back into the first round and traded a future first round pick. I know that Lee is a little bit higher on Kai Jones. I like his activity on both ends of the court. Obviously, he's going to have a lot of learning to do because he's only played the game for 5 years, right? Like that's been a thing that's kind of been in the notes with Kai Jones. He's not very experienced. And you get him in a program with James Borrego, who is known for player development. And to your point, Spencer, if he can go in with the mindset that I only do X, Y, and Z and keep it simple, slipping screens, picking and popping, and just letting his athletic ability take over, I think that's going to go a long way. But on the defensive side of the court, I see some issues there as well. I think out on the perimeter is where he probably excels, but down low and defending fives, I just can't really see it. Go ahead, Brian.
So Zach Lowe is reporting heavily protect the outgoing pick from Charlotte to New York, heavily protected 2022 first rounder with protections that decrease over the next 3 seasons, according to sources. Specifics are coming. But technically on the books right now, it will be a 2022 first round pick, heavily protected. So it would have to mean it would be insane for it not to be. So
right. Yeah. Well, it's gonna be interesting to see Kai Jones in Book Night in Summer League and LiAngelo, right?
yeah, right. And also, don't you guys think it's like a little funny that the Hornets have now used 2 first round picks now on guys that are older than LaMelo Ball this year? Like both James Bouknight and Kai Jones, older than the Hornets like star young point guard here.
Superstar Nate Darling will be in Vegas too, so let's not.
That's right. That's right. Hey man, I was going back through old U19 FIBA box scores this week, and Nate Darling was on the 2017 team with RJ Barrett for
the
Canada.
Canadian team.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. They beat Team USA out in.
The pride of Nova Scotia is there.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh God. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what ends up happening with him because I don't know. I'll be curious to see what they do with the 2-way deals this year. I mean, I'll be curious to see what they do with Riller, with Darling. It seems likely that if they end up keeping the late second, was that pick 57 that they still have? Like they end up using that. I mean, that probably turns into a 2-way guy, I would guess, or maybe not. But we'll see there. But that feels like a part of the roster where there could be some moving and shaking there.
So we got some pick protections here on this Charlotte 2022 pick. So it's 1 to 18 protected next season, 1 to 16, 23, 1 to 14, 24. And in 2025, 1 to 14. So Charlotte did its lottery protected throughout its lifetime. And so, okay, yeah, and it will turn into 2 future seconds if it's not conveyed by 25. So I think that's pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty low risk. If you're that sure of a prospect, which it seemed like, again, the Hornets were married to Kai Jones for weeks now. If you're that sure of a guy, I think that's an okay risk to take.
Yeah. It legitimately is heavily protected.
Well, and this is like, I mean, that makes me feel a lot better too, because now, knock on wood, none of this happens. But if you have an injury derailed by injury or something, and you're just unexpectedly really bad, you don't, you keep that big time lottery pick if for some reason the wheels fell off. I mean, this can happen in the NBA.
At no point will they lose a lottery pick because of this
Right.
transaction. Is one way to
Right.
think about it. That softens it a little bit. But yeah.
And I will say, I although I'm probably the highest on Kai Jones out of us, I know Richie seems to like him too.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ridiculous to say that he would potentially spend time in Greensboro too, though. Like that's kind of that's just the reality with Kai Jones right now. But from a timeline standpoint, and at this point, I think we can feel decently confident about kind of the Hornets' developmental program with the evidence we have of like the young roster development, and also like the one thing y'all kind of alluded to too is like LaMelo Ball brings out the best, in his teammates. I mean, Miles Bridges deserves a ton of credit for his own player development, but LaMelo Ball allowed him to kind of show his best self in certain ways too. So I like the fact that LaMelo will be able to hopefully put Kai in situations where he can be successful, I guess. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of go back to the protections and what it took to get this deal done, there's a very good chance that this pick does not convey next year. And the Hornets will need that pick because it's still going to be early on, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
You get to 2023, it changes a little bit. But again, like I think at that point, the expectations have changed. So for the Hornets to do this deal, to get Kai Jones again, guy they really like, without having to get any kind of lottery risk, I think is a job well done. I really do. And look, you brought up Lee, how high you are on Kai. I really like Kai too. I like him a lot. I did a little quick Twitter breakdown on him a few weeks ago. I just think that if he's not tailored in the right way along his development, he can be out of the league in a few years. Like he's one of those guys, because he just doesn't have a good concept of who he is as a player yet and what makes him successful on a basketball floor. But I do like the approach the Hornets are taking with the player development and how they seem to be slowly but surely kind of doubling down in that area and really, really utilizing Greensboro. I mean, I think that's a smart bet. And for the price that, like, I like this price way more than I like the Mason Plumlee price earlier in the night.
Yeah. It's a couple of numbers to just spit out about Kai Jones here. During his freshman season at Texas, just 7 of 24 on threes. In year 2, not much more volume, but 13 of 34, so a little over 38%. Some of the other indicators are like okay, not great. 69% from the free throw line this season. That's not really a positive indicator necessarily. Only 33% on long twos. So there's that as well. But the stroke looks good, right? Like you can trust the film a little bit on that. Looks pretty good. Seems projectable. 46 dunks this season. Shot 74.5% at the rim, with 64% of those shots coming assisted, unsurprisingly, and you can expect that trend to continue in the NBA. So yeah, anyways, 56% effective shooting on catch and shoots in the half court, according to Synergy as well. So, it's I don't know. He has a really intriguing offensive profile if you can get the defense squared away. I really do believe that. I just think the defense is going to take a lot of time.
Yes.
It's going to take a lot of work, and you're going to have to sort of like positionally figure out where he's going to slot in. But there is some idealized version of Kai Jones that develops well, and you can play him with PJ and Miles. And all of a sudden, you've got 3 guys that you just like an amoeba in your front court, right? You saw them kind of do this with McDaniel some this year too. But you've got 3 guys that can all switch around, that can give you some bit of rim protection, that can give you some shooting, and all 3 of them can be big time threats screening for LaMelo, which is I think there's some cool ways you can build around that offensively.
We talk about switching in the backcourt so much, I think, in this, but the league is now to where the most important thing is being able to switch in the front court. And to Brian's point, I mean, yes, like Jones is with PJ, whatever machination you want to put together, like the front court is very, very malleable defensively now.
Yeah.
The one thing that, like, looking at this draft, like, I don't think we anticipated coming away with Kai Jones and Book Knight in the first round when we headed into tonight. And both of these players have some concerns on the defensive side of the court. And Hornets, have always had some issues on the defensive side of the court. So we're not really addressing those issues quite yet. So maybe we're just trying to outscore everyone. Let's go round robin here. Just, initial gut reaction. If you were to give this a grade in the first round, coming away with Book Knight, coming away with Kai Jones, and taking into consideration what they had to give up for Kai Jones. We just talked about how it actually is a lot better than maybe we initially anticipated. What letter grade would you give it, Lee?
It's been a big night. Like we've added Mason Plumlee, Kai Jones, and James Book Knight to our roster. And oh wait, we still have 2 more picks. So
yeah.
But look, I'll go B minus. I feel pretty good about the night overall. I do think we've improved our roster tonight. I obviously wasn't a massive fan of the Book Knight pick, but I think I'll talk myself into that one. So yeah, I'll go B minus, B, somewhere in that range for me.
Yeah, I'm not too far behind. I'll say C plus. Sort of more in between the C and the C plus as opposed to C plus B minus. But because I just think the Hornets have didn't get a ton of value out of the Plumlee transaction. And I thought they left a little meat on the bone at 11. And we'll see how this Kai Jones value prop works out here.
Yeah, I'm going to go C plus as well.
Okay, well, I'm going to go B minus to make it 50-50 here.
Perfect.
So I'm on your side. The thing is like Kai Jones has one of the highest upsides in the draft. And I think most people were projecting the Hornets to draft him at number 11. So to get him at number 19, you got to take that into consideration as well. But to your point, Book Knight probably wasn't the highest on your boards. He was like my second preference behind Moody. So we'll see. We'll see. Both of these guys, like I said, have some issues on the defensive side of the court, and that's where the Hornets are lacking right now. So maybe they can address that at 37.
Maybe Jaden Springer falls to 37.
Yeah.
Guys, let's lock arms. Let's
I thought about it a second ago for you, BG.
If you got a ritual that you go to for good luck, whatever you do, whatever it takes here the next hour to get Jaden Springer the homecoming pick at number 37.
That would be
start doing it. Yeah. Now that would also change my opinion on the Plumlee transaction, which I'm pretty neutral on right now, but it would make it rather positive very quickly. So we'll see. I can't believe that dude. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm not entirely surprised he's still on the board, but it is nuts that Keon Johnson went 21 and Jaden Springer, the other Tennessee guy, still available.
I have to say, I'm not going to let myself get there yet, but Miles McBride at 37 would be awesome.
Yes. It's another a perfect fit next to LaMelo too.
Yes.
Perfect fit. You give you that point of attack defender, spot up shooter. Yeah. I mean, he's even got a little nasty post game too. I love Rockets have gone Garuba.
Yeah, Garuba.
Yeah. I like that pick for them. They may have gotten the best defender in the draft at 23. We'll see.
How about the compliment between Şengün and Garuba for the Rockets?
Love that.
Oh my god!
I feel like that's been a back and forth in the BuzzBeat Slack thread for a while now. Now that they're both on the same roster,
the same team somehow.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. Somewhere there's in some reality, there's a Spencer and a Brian. The two of us are coming together to shake hands on this. It all worked out in the end, at least for Houston, it did.
A few names at 37 I want to bring up that are still available. Joe Wieskamp is one. I mean, shooter, in the Kispert mold, but maybe actually a better athlete, maybe a better NBA player one day. Bones Highland. Richmond boy. From
I can't
VCU.
believe he's still
available. You never know here. And then the last name I wanted to bring up, and I know we've talked about JT Thor a lot, so maybe we should resurface that. But just taking Kai Jones, I don't know, and then having 2 other centers in Greensboro right now, we'll see. But
it's known for drafting multiple centers in a draft. That's just how it works.
Yeah, you're right.
Well,
true.
Well, like,
One-
interestingly, Thor and Jones are like 4.5s more than they are like pure 5. Like, you know what I mean?
True.
So
Yeah.
it would be funny if the Hornets went into the draft to address the 5 and just like only kind of drafted a center.
Kind of,
You know what
kind
I
of,
mean?
The, the last high swing prospect I want to bring up is sorry, I just
Houston.
went out there. No, BJ Boston, Kentucky.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a long wing, came out of high school, very highly rated, can do a few things. I think that's what the Hornet like. BJ Boston's not ready to go in, to the NBA now and be a difference maker on the wing defensively. But to me, that's the biggest black eye in the Hornets roster that remains.
Yeah.
Like they've done a few things tonight. They had some scoring. They had another center. I'm sure they'll get another center in free agency. At some point, the Hornets have to add like a wing that can guard multiple positions. They don't have that on the roster.
Yeah, like McBride and Springer, they're more like combo guards than they are like big wings, you know what I mean? But I'll say this about Boston. One, I haven't given up on him after the year at Kentucky. I would not be surprised if there was some sort of like undiagnosed, undisclosed injury he had last season. He was just not the same athlete in Lexington that he was as a prep. Full stop. He can still create advantage with his handle. He just didn't have the burst at Kentucky to
He's
actually
just, like,
capitalize on it.
It was like
That would lead-
tentative.
That would lead to the turnovers. That would lead to the bad shots. And he also shot the ball better as the year went along. So it's like you might be able to draft a guy that has like, Jeremy Lamb, offensive potential, but maybe even with more upside at 37. So just, I don't know. I haven't given up on Boston yet. And I think somebody could be, lucking into a pretty good, scoring wing, late first round, early second round if he's still on the board. But man, there's some really good players still around. Like Dosunmu, like he could fall out of the first round here as well. I don't know, man. I think
Henry will be there at 37 too.
I think he's such a good fit for them. I mean, I thought it a year ago, and really, like Henry's defense flies under the radar. I don't think he comes up in the discussions when we talk about best point of attack defender. That always ends up going to like Mitchell or Keon Johnson or McBride. Henry is an absolute tank at the point of attack, getting over screens. So. And you had New York going Quentin Grimes now at 25.
Wow, that's literally the name I was about to bring up.
Yeah. He's had the last couple of weeks have been very good for Quentin Grimes. Too.
Yeah, for sure.
He's like the combine was like a catalyst for his stock to really like take off, and he probably jumped like 20 draft slots over the last month. It feels like.
All right, we're going to log off here and probably jump back on at 37 when they draft Day'Ron Sharpe out of UNC. We probably will not do anything with the 56th overall pick for some obvious reasons, but we will catch you guys later.